I'm taking a brief break of telling the story of the main timeline to instead tell the story of the future timeline. This part will briefly talk about stuff that happens in the Cell Saga in the main series of the timeline, but not enough to spoil anything. Everything is the same up until age 764, which is the year that the heroes fight King Cold and Cooler on Earth, killing the two tyrants. I would go into detail about this fight, but it would go the same way as in the main timeline, with Cooler being defeated easily and King Cold being killed in a group attacked by the heroes after Shaoji unlocked the Super Saiyan for the first time. However, the main difference here is that they obviously wouldn't receive a warning about the upcoming android threat, so they don't start training intensely for the next 3 years, which, this means they wouldn't master Super Saiyan during this time skip either. Then at age 765, unbeknownst to the heroes, their immortality is wished away after the Dragon Balls were collected. This would probably be easy to get away with, especially if the Saiyans are in outer space at the time. The person who collected these Dragon Balls was Bulma, who has still been working with Dr. Gero. Also, when taking the Dragon Balls, she also took the jars containing Piccolo and Kami. However, in this timeline Dr. Gero didn't make himself into an android, so Bulma didn't either. Regardless, Bulma's plan was to wish her immortality away so that the android would be able to take down Goku and the others. Then, unbeknownst to Gero, she planned to use the remote to destroy androids 17 and 18. Also, in a secret lab of her own, Bulma was working on building a time machine. With this time machine, after destroying the androids, she planned to go back in time to before Goku turned evil, since she most likely wouldn't have been able to convince Goku otherwise about staying good. She would trick him into taking a poison. She would tell him that it's a cure for a heart disease that will kill him, so he would willingly take it. Goku as a child wasn't exactly the brightest, so he wouldn't see through Bulma's lie. Anyway, after Goku dies, she would hope that it would change her timeline, though if it didn't, she would go back and focus on rebuilding her timeline now that the Saiyans are no longer around to ravage her world. Also, after the Saiyans were gone, she would release Kami from his jar so the Earth would have a guardian again, and keep Piccolo in his jar, since Piccolo was still evil at that point. That's just her plan though. Things don't always go as smooth sailing as they do on paper. To everyone's shock at age 766, Kakarot fell ill to the heart virus, but the others weren't worried about it. With them thinking they're still immortal, they figured his body would heal itself in a couple days. Though, after a couple days pass and he still hasn't gotten better, they realize something is wrong and try to use some of the technology they received from the Frieza Empire to heal Kakarot. Though, unfortunately for Kakarot, this just prolongs his suffering at best, as it isn't able to cure him. So, the Saiyan warrior eventually succumbs to the heart virus and passes away. They take his body back to Earth shortly afterwards and bury it out behind Grandpa Gohan's at Kakarot's old house. Kakarot's death would be a shock to the heroes, as he was supposed to be immortal. However, he died so something obviously went wrong. Either they lost their immortality, or for some reason it didn't protect against natural causes like the heart virus. So, to make the rest of this timeline go as I have planned, I'll say that they would just think that their immortality didn't protect against natural causes. Regardless, with Kakarot dead now, protecting the Earth falls on the shoulders of the rest of them. As per usual, at age 767, androids 17 and 18 appear on the Menbo Island on May 12th, thus starting their attack. The heroes might fare a little better with them all having Super Saiyan, but it isn't enough to turn the tide of the battle. Once the fight between the androids and the heroes start, Nappa is the first one to fall at their hands, which, with the others seeing Nappa die, their worst fears would have become reality, as they would realize that they aren't immortal anymore, which this would lead them to being more cautious against the androids, though, no matter how cautious they are, they still don't stand a chance against the android menace. After Nappa falls, the recently crowned Emperor Vegeta falls as well, which leaves Raditz as the only full-blooded Saiyan left. However, Raditz falls shortly after as well, leaving Yurine and Shaoji left to face the androids. Yurine decides to sacrifice herself though and give Shaoji the chance to flee, which he reluctantly does. He would obviously ignore going back to his home since the androids would know where that is. Over the years he would spend it training secretly, though every now and again if the androids do find him, he would be able to hold them off at least briefly and escape. As for how he finds out about Bulma, Shaoji would eventually have heard about her when one of the two androids would have accidentally let it slip. Shaoji wouldn't know a lot about her, since Kakarot wouldn't have talked about her much, but he would have figured out that she helped to make the androids, so he would start to think that if he could find their lab, he might find a way to destroy the two androids. So, in the next 13 years while training and evading the androids, He also starts searching for Bulma's lab, though he doesn't really have any idea of where it could be, so it is quite literally like looking for a needle in a haystack. Also, his training would be a little less effective since he wouldn't have a training partner like Future Gohan did with Future Trunks. Much to Bulma's dismay, the androids would have been killing innocent people when they get bored, though she would see it as the price she has to pay in order to take down the only remaining Saiyan, which is Shaoji. All she can do is hope that after Shaoji and the androids are gone, she'll be able to revive the innocent people that were killed somehow. Anyway, as Shaoji is searching around the world, he would still end up having a confrontation with the androids of Superworld. He figured that Bulma's lab wouldn't be there, but it was better safe than sorry for him to check everywhere. Unfortunately for him, the androids start their attack on Superworld shortly after he arrives, and they eventually spot him there. Android 17 would be the one to fight with Shaoji, though he would still have to transform to Super Saiyan to even stand a little bit of a chance. He is still being beat down badly by Android 17 at first, though eventually he starts to beat down the android instead, so Android 18 comes to her brother's assistance shortly after. Once Android 18 joins in, he wouldn't be able to get any hits in, so he would be getting demolished in this fight. However, once they start to toy around with him, thus them not being as cautious, he would be able to find an opening to skip away from the two like Gohan did in the anime. So they just resort to the strategy of randomly blasting, hoping that they eventually hit him. Unlike with Future Gohan, since there wouldn't be someone else to give the last senzu bean to, he is able to take it himself, which this leaves him in far better shape than what Future Gohan was in the anime. I'm not sure if Shaoji would have lost an arm as well, but he would have obtained some type of injury. I just wasn't sure what to say the injury was, as I didn't want to make him exactly like Future Gohan by losing an arm. So, if you have any suggestions as to what his injury could have been, please do comment it below. I like to hear people's thoughts on what they think it should be. Regardless, after this close call, he's much more cautious when it comes to fighting with the androids. He'll try to flee first instead of sticking around to fight with them, so that he doesn't end up being killed as well. A major difference here is with the attack on Pepper Town. He wouldn't go there to face the androids since he became much more cautious. So, he basically survives because he made the decision to not go and face the two androids. Anyway, this game of cat and mouse with him being chased by the androids, and narrowly avoiding them, goes on until age 784. He does eventually find Bulma's lab though, and after blasting his way inside, he would find Bulma basically defenseless while she was working on the time machine. He would kill her though, so that she couldn't use whatever the machine was, as he figures it isn't something good. Afterwards, he would go through her blueprints and notes to figure out what the machine is, and once he finds out it's a time machine, he would get the idea to return and give his father a cure for the heart virus. The people of Earth still developed a cure for this disease, even after their world was being ravaged by the androids. So, after figuring out how to work the time machine, he would take the cure back to his father and warn them about the androids. Then at age 785, he uses the time machine again to go back and help the heroes with their own fight against the androids, which, we know how that goes, as I went over it in detail in other parts, so I won't go over it again here, though, without having the hyperbolic time chamber, he would stay in the past for about a year to train to return to the future and take on the androids. Theoretically, in that time he should have been able to get the ascended forms of Super Saiyan and master it as well. The others would be able to help him achieve this since they also attained it and would be able to guide him through the process while he's in the past. Anyway, when he comes back to the future, he would go get ready to fight the androids as he would believe he is strong enough to defeat the both of them now. On the radio he would hear the broadcast about the androids, since they would be in the process of attacking Parsley City. In the city, Android 17 is in the middle of taunting Android 18 for getting this mad over losing a video game, which caused her to start to destroy things in the city, though he is interrupted by being shot in the head by an old man, and just as he is about to kill him, Future Shaoji arrives. Android 18 asks if she can kill Shaoji, and even though Android 17 says he'll lose a fun game, he says to go ahead. However, her blast she uses to try and kill him is easily knocked away as he rushes at her. When he reaches her, he doesn't even give her a moment to react, he just blasts and destroys her. That's one android down. Which, after seeing this, Android 17 would be in shock and disbelief that his sister was just killed. He would ask how he could kill number 18, to which Shaoji would say something about that this was for his friends he killed, and now this is for killing his parents. So, he rushes Android 17 and kicks him away, before blasting and vaporizing him, just like he did to Android 18. After he defeats the androids and drops out of Super Saiyan, he would be in disbelief that he defeated the androids, but he would know it isn't over yet, since Future Cell is still around. 3 years later in age 788, he would have gathered enough energy to be able to go to the past and let them know that the androids in his timeline were defeated, which, before he hops in the time machine, since Future Cell was watching him, he would shock him by saying he knew he was there, and that his plan was to kill him, turn into an egg, and go back in time to get his perfect form. After Shaoji explained seeing his ultimate form, Future Cell would have realized he went to the past and met his past self, which is the only reason he can know all this. However, Cell would go on to say he can't beat him, since he was stronger than androids 17 and 18, and Shaoji wasn't strong enough to beat them. Though, when he asked how the androids disappeared, it would be a shock to Cell that he defeated the two. Regardless, when the fight starts, Shaoji would realize he would have to go to the Super Saiyan, which is when he starts pummeling the weird bug creature. Even though he doesn't need to, he still transforms further to show what he obtained in the last 2 years. Since he's seen one of the past heroes transform into a Super Saiyan 2, he figured he would be able to achieve it as well. So, he spent the last 3 years training until he unlocked this form. He was being beaten before, but now Cell was just being toyed with by the newly transformed Super Saiyan 2. Cell still tries to use the Kamehameha as the last ditch effort, but is easily blasted and killed by Future Shaoji. Afterwards, he powers down and gets ready to go tell everyone in the past that he won. Because of all of his efforts, his timeline is in a state of peace much like the past is. At least for now.